2 weeks ago, I was going on the MRT and it was packed. So I go in the train, like I forced myself in the train, and it was very cramped, and I was at the door area, and there was a man in front of me. He's wide, took up a lot of space in the train. And usually when you're on the train, you like put your hands up, like, are you carrying your bag, or you want to hold on to stuff because you don't want your hands to be like touching other people, or it makes more space. And this guy, his hands were down, and I noticed that um, wherever I would move, his hand was like touching my crotch. That's such a weird thing to say. Uh, and I would like move around, and his hand would follow, and I could feel it. And this whole time, because it's so cramped, so I was thinking like, oh, this is an accident, a really awkward accident. But I noticed that he kept looking at me. Like he would always like look back at me. Maybe he was checking if I was noticing. And I did, but I didn't make it look like it was happening because I didn't want to believe it. There was like some kind of malicious intention behind it. So I just assumed it was an accident. And we got down Ortigas station. That's where I go down. That's where I work. And before he left, he straight up like he grabs it, not like painfully, but like like his fingers close up on it, and then I'm shocked because I'm going down the same station as he is. He probably didn't assume that I was, so he looked back at me and he saw that I was going down the train too, and he started to not necessarily run, but he walked faster and kept looking back at me, and my mind is thinking like, this is still an accident, right? Because I didn't want to believe it myself. Like, why would you want to believe that this sort of stuff happened to you? So in my mind, it's probably an accident. He's running away because it was awkward, I guess. But then, in that situation, you don't want to think that this sort of thing happened on purpose, because then that would make you a victim, and no one wants to be a victim. So 4 days later, after the event, I just put in the back of my mind, I categorized it like it was probably an accident. So I was on the train again, going to work, and I go in the train. It's cramped again, as per usual. Good job, Philippines. I go in the train, and I notice someone looking at me, and I realize it's the guy again, and he positions himself exactly the same place as last time, and it's happening again. His hand was down there, and this time I was more aware of it, and I was really avoiding it. But it was insanely cramped, and you cannot move. And you'd think like at this point, like say something, do something. But in my mind, I always think, being a guy also, I don't want to say this, but like it's the reality that was in my mind, that because I'm not very good at Filipino or Tagalog or whatever, and if I were to say, I didn't know what to say, and I was afraid that people wouldn't believe me, or if I did say it and some people believe me, he would just deny it, and it's just the he said, and there's no way to prove it, because like sexual harassment, it's one of those crimes that is just hard to prove because it's not something physical that's being taken away from you. Like if someone were to rob you, you can be like, oh, my wallet's gone, he has the wallet. Or if someone were to hit you, you can be like, I have this bruise, or I've been injured. But with sexual harassment, what's taken away from you isn't physical. It's more of your power, your agency, your choice is taken away from you, and you can't be like, oh, that man has my my agency, or my he's taken power away from me. And I was scared. I couldn't say anything, not because I didn't mind, or I was just trying to ignore it. Like I couldn't ignore it. And he put me in a position that made me boxed in, literally and figuratively. And I was afraid that no one would believe me, and I would just cause more trouble for myself, especially if nothing happens to it. All that happens is I just humiliate myself in front of all these people. And you'd think because there'd be a crowd around me, like I'd be like, look, see, look what he's doing. But like, it's not that easy. If I did that, he'd just pretend like it didn't happen, and we're back again to trying to prove something that is almost unprovable. Because with those types of acts, by the time there's proof or evidence of it, it's gone too far. The damage has been done. You know, like something physical has already happened, alteration or whatever. And um, after that, it was Ortega Station again, and I was more aware of it. That I knew what he was gonna do before he left. So I moved all my weight back to avoid his hand, and I could still feel like his fingers still like try and grab it, and I could feel it. It wasn't as severe as last time because this time I actually tried to avoid it. And I was walking, I was chasing him down. I remember that so vividly. Like my eyes did like a tunnel vision thing, and all I could see was him, like walking away as fast as he can. And then there's a sea of people. You know what it's like in the MRT. It's like that. And I I was looking forward at him, left to the guards, forward, left. Like in my mind, I was like, am I gonna do this? Am I gonna report this guy? Am I gonna say something, do something? And I didn't. I was late for work already as it is, and by the time I go to the guard, he would have been gone. And then, of course, they tell me to prove it. Or, unfortunate reality is, I'm a man coming out saying this to the guards, and my brain was telling me that if they would believe me more if I were a woman or if I were a child or younger. But no, and that reality kind of like stopped me on my tracks, and I couldn't do anything. And by the time this whole like thought process was happening in my mind, it was too late. And he walked away, and I couldn't find him anymore. So I just went to work, and uh, my mind was still thinking like, should I believe that this actually happened? Did this actually happen to me? And there are parts of my brain like maybe it was an accident again, like because something that people don't realize about people who are victims of this sort of stuff is they don't want to believe that this happened to them. Like unless of course they're looking for attention or it didn't actually happen. They're trying to get back at someone or whatever. But like real victims of this sort of stuff, they don't want to believe that this happened to them. And the act of them coming out, telling people or reporting a person for what they did against them, that in itself is a huge act of bravery and should not be taken lightly. So I didn't do anything because I didn't think that it would lead to anywhere. I believe that the first thing you have to do is once you've already uh, repeated the event in your head over and over and thought it through, like, did this actually happen to me? Find someone that you can trust, that you can talk to, or someone you know will understand you, and just say everything that's in your mind, how you're feeling, and know that that you did nothing wrong. In my mind, I was thinking, if only I did this, if only I did that, because people always do that when a victim of sexual harassment or assault would come out and say that this person did this to them. Instantly, naysayers would be like, you should have done this, why didn't you do that? But they don't know that the victim themselves would question themselves as well. I was questioning myself. I was like, why didn't I report him? The guard was right there. If I walked faster, I could have done something. Maybe even, get this guy. But it's not as cut and dry as that. So I just, eventually, as I was, doing work, but my mind was like on somewhere else, I just said to myself, like, there was nothing I could have done. That was the best I could have done in the situation. I'm not the one who, I wasn't the one who's done anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. Just know that before you say certain things, what a person should have done, or like what they were wearing, or so on, know that these thoughts and these words that you're saying the victim themselves have probably thought of this too. And at the end of the day, saying what could have, what should have isn't going to help anyone. And also, it takes so much, like, it takes so much guts for a person to even say these things, to accuse someone of it, that that alone should at least make you take this person seriously. Because of all these reports lately of like sexual misconduct, especially in Hollywood, like that are just coming out of nowhere, and a lot of people say like, why did they just say this now? Well, it's not. If they said it the day itself, they'd be saying it alone and with only their voice. But these people who are coming out now, they've found other people who have experienced the same thing with the same person, and there is strength in numbers. And like I said, sexual harassment, sexual assault is such an almost impossible thing to prove without physical evidence. But by the time there is physical evidence, the damage has been done and it's too late. Like, like bruising or like cuts of fluids, like it's too late by that time. So in order to prove something, the crime has to have gone to its extreme, which like people shouldn't even be wishing this. So saying that someone harassed you and saying that knowing that you can't even prove it, that in itself is a huge act of bravery. The reason why I'm even making this video and saying all this is I want my voice to be out there as a man, as a 21-year-old man who has been harassed sexually. I realized in that moment that I felt alone. Women and kids, it's awful to say, but they are the prime victims of this sort of acts. And there's a lot of awful things that people say, like men can't get raped, men can't get sexually harassed or abused, which couldn't be farther from the truth. And I want you to know, if you're a man who has experienced sexual harassment or assault or abuse, that you're not alone in this, that there are people suffering the same thing who have found strength in companionship, in talking about the pain that they felt, or talking about the loneliness that would come with these sort of acts done against them. And this thing that has happened to you isn't going to define you. You're more than just a victim. And for people who are friends or family of victims, please don't just see them as a victim and then like coddle them or like keep them safe forever, because then you cease to see them as a human being, and all people want in life is to be understood. So if you start to only see them as a victim of sexual harassment, abuse, and assault, you're not necessarily helping, because as much as possible, the goal is to continue on life without having this event taking away the normalcy of life. You want to continue living on life and not be held back by what happened, because otherwise the event would still be affecting you continually. Because with sexual assault, sexual harassment, it's not the act in itself that is the problem. There's the aftermath. People insulting victims, people being overly protective of victims. But the major reason I'm making this video is this is the only real way I know how to take power back from what happened, or this is what I know I can do and what I enjoy doing, and this is my outlet creatively and even emotionally to reassess what happened and to turn an awful situation into something that hopefully can benefit others. And frankly, it benefits me as well. Talking about it and making sure that this sort of stuff doesn't happen anymore to anyone else is a big reason why I'm making this video. Hopefully, it does help. I don't know. Honestly, there's not much that can be said that already hasn't been said already. So, um, and I guess like my final thoughts would be that if you are a victim of sexual harassment, assault, and abuse, know that you will move on from this, and you're not alone, and things always get better.